are the Hallmarkies podcast, and we're so excited to be here. We are talking Postables today. It's so fun. Jill and Amber's here.
Hello, everybody.
And we have a special guest. We have Postables blogger, Chandel here. She's the blogger behind Alameda and Downing, the Postables blog. And she's awesome. And thanks so much, Chandel, for joining us.
Thank you so much for covering the show. I'm really excited to chat with some fellow Postables fanatics.
Yeah, this is going to be really great. So why don't you introduce yourself to our audience?
Hi, everybody. I'm Chandel Charles. I'm the Alameda and Downing blog, dedicated to Signed, Sealed, Delivered for about 3 years now. I started it just sort of on a whim, and it sort of blew up and became a home for all things Signed, Sealed, Delivered. And I've enjoyed being able to talk about it and everyone that's sort of come up around the blog, and I'm excited to talk with you two about it today.
We're so glad. I started blogging before I started podcasting, so I love bloggers. I still blog, so I have a special place in my heart for bloggers. But so you've been a fan from the very beginning?
More or less. I'll say I have been more or less from the beginning, but most Postables who follow the blog sort of know that I was not a huge fan of the pilot when it came out, but the reason had more to do with sort of where my heart was at the time than with the show itself. And so I sort of kind of underwent sort of a religious transformation, if you want to call it that, but I sort of rededicated my life to Christ, and I started to see the show a lot differently after the fact. And so the pilot came across as a completely new story to me, and I just sort of fell in love with it all over again. And when I started the blog, it was about 2 years after the pilot aired, and my first movie that I covered was From Paris with Love. So more or less, I've kind of had an interesting sort of start relationship with the show, but sort of since maybe about 2014, 2015, it's sort of been my heart, I guess you could say.
Did you watch from the beginning of the series?
Yeah, I remember my family and my parents and I watched the pilot TV movie. We really loved it, and then we're like, and it's gonna be a series, and we were so excited. We watched it every week together, like it was family programming for me and my parents. And then they canceled the show, and we were so mad. And then they, had the Christmas movie, and we were like, well, where's the TV series? And then it became movies, so we really liked it. But yeah, we were, Postables from the beginning. Yeah.
So here's my scandalous reveal. So I had heard that it was really good, but I'm pretty sure that I watched When Calls the Heart instead and thought it was Signed, Sealed, Delivered, because I thought that it was a show from like the past. And even going into this, I was like, oh, that show's kind of boring. And sorry, that's kind of what I think about When Calls the Heart. And so I'm pretty sure that I had watched When Calls the Heart and thought it was Signed, Sealed, Delivered, got it confused. And so I never watched it because I thought it was boring. And but now that I've watched it starting last year, I watched the first one I watched was the Home Again, and then I watched Higher Ground, and then I went back and watched the whole thing, and it was so good. I loved it so much.
When you started, that's one thing I love about the Postables, is it really does not matter when you started loving the show. You come in on equal footing. Like there's no, we were here first. There's none of that. You love the Postables, so do I. Let's talk.
And you can really start anytime and still enjoy it. Like you don't have to, like each episode really does stand on its own as a complete story, I feel like.
Yeah, and I feel like what you said about the Postables being, not like, you're not a real fan, because that's a thing in a lot of fandoms where people are like, whatever, you didn't read all of the comic books or whatever. The Postables fans are just like, thank you for loving this show. Let's all love it together. And I think it's partly because of what the show's about and the message that it has underneath it, but also just, I don't know, it's not like a competitive environment, like I'm a bigger fan than you are. I don't know. I just really like that about this fandom in general.
I've been in other fandoms where that was sort of a thing. I actually used to be a TV blogger for a while, and you know, it was in that highly competitive environment of, well, I've met more celebrities than you and I've seen more shows than you and I was here from the beginning. So, I mean, that's why I love this so much, is that it's the complete opposite vibe.
What do you think is the main appeal to this series, to the show, for you or for the Postables in general?
I think it's the storytelling. I think one of the things that Martha really does well is that she has a specific message that she's trying to convey, but she doesn't preach it at you. The people are real. They deal with real issues, and they do so in a way that's humorous and touches your heart and that you can connect with. And I think that's really what is so great about Martha Williamson's writing, and then also about the actors that sort of came together to sort of make this very cohesive unit. So I think it's kind of the magic of both of those things, plus the storytelling and sort of this premise of seeing it from the post office and sort of bringing back this sort of, you know, old school vibe of the written word. And I think people really are connecting to some of those like old nostalgic things. So I think there's a lot of different like reasons that people are really just kind of falling in love with it and with the characters.
Like you said, I mean, I feel like, you know, it really does harken back to a time when things were simpler and slower and less, you know, I'm gonna send 17 text messages to my friend if they don't answer me within the next 2 minutes, you know. And Oliver, you know, always talks about it being like a contract, and they're putting faith in the postal service to get this precious item. And I mean, it's so amazing how faith is such a central part of this show. And it's not in a way like, oh, well, it's about angels, or, oh, it's about, you know, putting this in your face in a way that's not super relatable. I feel like a lot of times Christian shows try to make it be like a little bit too sensational to try to make things more whatever accessible, I guess, except for it does the opposite, where the faith elements of this show come from the characters living their own truths, you know?
Right.
Like Oliver has his faith, and I feel like it's so refreshing to see some character have that much faith and just live it and express it and see how it's such a positive influence in the world around him, even though all the people around him are already great. His bold, you know, professions of his faith really just are remarkable in this world. Like, you never see that on anywhere.
He struggles too. Like what we see him, like, you know, first off with Holly, like you can tell he's sort of trying to lean towards shame in a certain sense, but he's so like steadfast in his belief that, you know, he's married and that's who he is right now until the ring is off of his finger. And we waited a long time to see that, but we saw him sort of struggle with, you know, really trying to walk out, you know, his faith, and then sort of these new things about himself and the world around him that he was starting to sort of discover. And I think that's really awesome.
That's the thing I was most impressed about the show, was how it managed to balance those themes of faith and do it in a way that felt non-judgmental. That's very difficult to do. Christian content, faith-based films, faith-based content, they want it to be a source of ministry, which is admirable and understandable. And, you know, I can understand. But in the attempt to minister, sometimes it can elevate the believer over the non-believer. And it can make the non-believer, it could seem like the villain. And that's obviously not reality. That's not true. And so I think what it does, I was so impressed, especially in the Christmas movie, how they were able to talk about it in such a nuanced and touching way that's extremely difficult to pull off.
Yeah.
That it's just tough. So I think that's one of my favorite things about the show. And also just I think the cast is just so adorable. Every single one of them is just so cute. So they did a good job.
Yeah, the casting was spot on.
I mean, and as somebody who watched Ugly Betty, all the seasons that Eric was on it, I would not have guessed him to be this kind of role, really, because he was more like the slick kind of
right.
slick character in that show. And I mean, I guess in How to Fall in Love, he's more like Oliver. But but I don't know. So it's interesting. They had some sort of vision, I think, that they saw in these characters, that these actors that weren't necessarily part of their filmography.
Right.
Yeah. So, and if you guys listening have not listened to our interview with Crystal Lowe, who plays Rita, definitely make sure to check that out, because we had so much fun. We actually got a chance to interview a number of people that have appeared on Signed, Sealed, Delivered. We interviewed Tammy Gillis, and we interviewed Kimberly Susted, and we interviewed Andrew Brooks, and I believe all three of them were on Signed, Sealed, Delivered. So
yes,
that's pretty fun. Yeah. So we've been pretty lucky with that.
That's awesome.
So, all right. So here we've now gotten to this latest movie called Signed, Sealed, Delivered, To the Altar. What are your overall thoughts about this film, Amber?
It was incredible. Like, really, honestly, all Signed, Sealed, Delivered movies are. And I know it sounds pandering because we're doing the podcast about it, but I don't pander. Rachel knows this.
Yeah, no, this is true.
All of the movies are just so well done. The scripts are incredible. Martha Williamson has such an incredible vision for where she wants the characters to go. And they always are portrayed so organically. It's like, honestly, I could watch them solve any letter
mystery. Yeah.
Letter mystery. And it would be amazing because the characters are just so relatable. It's like watching a wholesome Big Brother because it feels like they're really real people, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was so delightful. I only have one critique that we'll talk about towards the end of the show, but it was amazing. I loved it. I mean, there were so many adorable moments that I was just like crushing on big time. It was so.
Let me ask you, how many times did you cry during this movie?
Many times.
Many. Chandel, did you cry at all?
Did. So there were several points at which, it just really touched me in some way that just really, I couldn't help but react to.
Yeah. Yeah. What was your overall thoughts about this one, Chandel?
It was a beautiful movie. When you spent as much time with this show and these characters as I have, and as so many Postables have, it's very hard not to just immediately be invested and just emotionally connect with the ways that these stories sort of have played out over the course of the entire series, and how many of those things sort of culminated right here in To the Altar. And it's also one thing that was really important to Martha that I've heard her speak about, is that this movie was written for us as fans. It was written for us to sort of, tie up, sort of any loose ends, on the off chance, we don't get to see them again, but also leave open that really bright future for all of the characters. And it was just very beautiful how she did it, and how many pieces of herself sort of became part of the script as well.
So that's kind of maybe talking a little bit about one of my critiques, but so how did you feel? Did this feel like a finale to you? Did it feel like a finale to you, Amber?
It definitely felt like it could be a finale, and I would be okay with that, I suppose. That's not to say that, I mean, like, I rabidly would like more movies. Like, let's just be garage sale mysteries and have 4 Signed, Sealed, Delivered movies in April. Doesn't that sound lovely?
Right. Yes, absolutely. Here for it.
But because they're just such incredible shows. Anyway, but it did feel like if this was the last movie, that I could be okay with it, because I know that all of the characters are going to be happy and taken care of, but I can watch people who are happy solve letter mysteries all day.
Right, yes,
all day.
Absolutely.
Here's the thing. So like my only critique is that I feel like, so they were kind of like at the end they were like, oh, here's somebody from, like, there was even a point where one of the girls was like, look, here's this person they helped, and here's this person they helped, here's this person they helped. And I feel like I wish that the last movie had been Rita and Norman's wedding, so they could have just had their moment and even have the proposal, and then do the finale movie. I don't know. I kind of was like, I wish that wasn't all being sort of packed in to Rita and Norman's wedding.
Oh, really? It didn't really feel like a finale to me. Oddly enough, and I told a lot of people this, Higher Ground, if anything, really struck me as sort of an end. It had, sort of Norman and Rita, kind of that first engagement, and then Shane and Oliver sort of professing their love for one another. And that, to me, it just felt like a closed book. Like, that was it. We've got everybody where they need to go. And then they got these 3 movies. It sort of allowed them to sort of, at least Shane and Oliver, to transition into that space that Norman and Rita had just sort of left with their engagement. So they got to be a couple for a little bit. Then The Road Less Traveled was specifically designed for them to sort of investigate kind of the nature and strength of their relationship independently. Mm-hmm. And then this is where, To the Altar was sort of where we got to see them sort of enter those kind of final phases of that. But it was really an open door as opposed to a shut one, because now we've got Rita and Norman married, and now we have the possibility of Shane and Oliver, making their own trip down the aisle. And there's so many people have said it, Amber just totally said it. Hey, there is so much more that happy people can do. And I think that's what I'm excited about, is it would be to see them sort of be these happy, whole individuals, and then sort of take that out into the world around them in sort of a new or different way that maybe we haven't seen yet.
This is one critique I have for Hallmark, which is I think they feel like people don't care about the story really past the engagement. And if they care about it, it's only up to the altar, which I think is patently untrue. I mean, almost every sitcom in the history of sitcoms involves a married couple. Like, you want to see people being happy and dealing with real life, but still finding hope and joy and love in the journey. Like, I guarantee you, not every person who watches Hallmark movies are single 30-something-year-old ladies. Like, sure, I fit that demographic, but I guarantee you I'm in the minority. Like, let's be real.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, most of the times Hallmark has tried to do sequels that haven't really worked very well, but I believe in Martha that she would make it work and she would tell a good story. And so I really hope, but it was just it was a little bit stressful, actually, maybe it was just because I was live to, but it was a little bit stressful to watch, because I'm like so happy, but then there'd be these things that were like, oh no, and then I'd be happy, and then oh no, and then happy, and then oh no. And so that was kind of I'm like, couldn't we have saved this for another movie and kind of just focused on Rita and Norman's wedding? But like I
do want to say, I kind of wish Oliver had not put on the green tie until after they had exchanged their vows.
Yeah.
Really?
Just because. I mean, I was like, yay, how cute, it's so adorable, oh my goodness. But a part of me was like, but Shane's now not focusing on her best friend getting married. She's all like, oh my gosh, she's wearing the ugly green tie. Oh.
Yeah.
Like that. And of course, Norman and Rita will be happy for them, and they will never say anything about that or think anything about it. But myself, I just kind of wish Shane could have been there wholly in the moment just for Rita.
That's fair. It was like,
Chandel does not agree.
I'm thinking about it because, I mean, how the story, like kind of the flow of the story. And I think one of the things that I really liked about that moment was that it was sort of that like tease. It was like this kind of could happen, because when you walk through this story with Shane, you see her trying on that wedding dress, which is sort of like the sort of unexpressed desire that she has to sort of be married. Yeah. And she kind of gives that up for a second when she tries to unbutton the dress, and then he buttons it back up. Like no, this is a good fit for you. Being married is a good fit for you. And so she's kind of going back and forth kind of throughout the film as he's contemplating and sort of ignoring her in the process, I guess. And then for her to see that, I think was very reaffirming for her, actually, that maybe that was a possibility, because he had never worn a green tie before. Didn't when his previous marriage to Holly, 3 hours later they were at the courthouse. He didn't propose. So I think that it was actually sort of a reaffirming moment for her, kind of in the middle of this other beautiful moment, of her best friend getting married. So I think they were kind of two really beautiful things sort of happening at once. And then we got to see them get engaged after all the other wedding guests had left. Mind you, I know there are a lot of people that are like, etiquette says you shouldn't be at the wedding and, propose to someone, which I wholly agree with, but they made it a point to wait until sort of everyone else was gone and they came into sort of like an empty room with just their friends.
I know he didn't propose till everything was over, but
the green tie, and
the green tie was basically like, watch out, girl, this is happening. And like, obviously, as a viewer, I was like, oh my goodness, watch out, girl, this is happening. But part of me, like, it also distracted me a little bit from being like, oh yay, Norman and Rita. And I feel like a lot of the time they do get shuffled off to the background, and so it would have been nice to let them have their, home wedding montage. And then the green tie comes out. Like, imagine Oliver, like, leaves for a minute and comes out with the green tie after changing out of his bow tie after, like, while everyone's dancing. Whoa. That would have been still good.
Moment. Thing at the screening, though, was really funny. I was so absorbed in the story, I didn't even see the green tie. It was everybody else who was like, oh my gosh, he's wearing the green tie. I was so absorbed with like, ooh, the wedding, it's happening. This is going to be amazing and beautiful and profound. But it was everyone else who was like, oh my gosh, tie. Like, they were really waiting for Oliver to propose. And I'm just like, here all about the story. So I kind of see what you mean, though, about the distraction.
About the green tie, I literally squealed, like audibly, like, it was pretty bad. But yeah, it was very...
I mean, I saw the green tie and I instantly burst into tears, but like,
I get
still, it's, I mean, but let's be honest, when we think about Norman and Rita's wedding, we don't think about, like, what are we talking about? We're talking about the green tie. We're not even talking about, like, Norman's face when he saw Rita walking down the aisle. We're like, who cares? We want to see Shane's face when she sees that green tie. Like,
I don't know if I'd go quite that. I still thought it was pretty memorable, but yeah, I get your point. So, okay, so it started out with this voiceover narration from Oliver, and he said the stamp is the smallest contract in the world, a promise that if you believe in it, if you believe in it, we will deliver it somehow, some way, because we know if that contract is broken, hearts can be broken. So what did you think of this opening, Amber?
I really liked it. I mean, I feel like, does every movie open with an Oliver wisdom monologue?
I don't know.
No, it does not.
It does?
The pilot doesn't. The pilot starts with Kelly pulling up to the train station or whatever, about to leave, and gets her letter off. But when she gives the letter to the guy, then his first, like, sort of monologue begins about talking about the letters. And, I wonder who sent the first letter, blah, 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 and it goes from there.
Okay. Well, I mean, it just felt, because I just barely misremembered, it just felt like it harkened back to the origins of, like, Signed, Sealed, Delivered. It felt very, very great.
Yeah, it was one of the very first things where I was like, oh no, this sounds like a goodbye. Like, there were so many things where I was like, oh no. But it was really sweet and very moving. And I never have thought of a stamp as a contract. And so it was very good. So, all right. And then we have this delightful scene with Shane giving Rita a girl's gift, being last week of being single gift, which I hope someday to receive last week of being single gift. That's my new goal. But this was pretty funny because Shane is, giving her the feather boa and like talking to her about getting her some slinky stuff. That was pretty funny. What do you think about that, Chanel?
It definitely is sort of that Shane moment. She's sort of that, Rita is just so innocent that that's not even like sort of her first thought, and she kind of has to like catch up with Shane, but Shane sort of has a very clear idea of like what this means and what the girls' night should be like, and it's kind of their relationship a little bit. There's just sort of this innocence on Rita's part that kind of comes out when Shane seems more worldly or just knows more about men. You'll hear Rita comment from time to time, and it's just kind of that dynamic you're seeing play out in sort of a cute way.
Yeah, it's really cute. I liked it very much. Amber?
Yeah, and that was also kind of a funny juxtaposition to compare Shane being like, "Oh, we're gonna buy you something," and Oliver and Norman's cute little talk about going to the movies.
Yeah, that was so cute.
So sweet.
Yeah. They'll, yeah, I loved it when he was like, when there's like, I've got plenty to learn already on my honeymoon.
About the, after the canoe, he's like, I cannot swim. I've previously been known not to drive, and here we go. Like, here's more things that I'm now needing to learn.
And who knew that foster care was so great for planning weddings? Like, this is very...
All the cousins. I mean, that's like the longest running joke that this series has, is how many cousins does Norman really have?
37 cousins, yeah.
So they finally got a solid number, because Rita didn't even know in The Road Less Traveled. There was some question about, do you even know how many, cousins he has? She's like, I don't think Norman knows. Well, they knew. They had a solid number this time.
That was a lot of fun. And yeah, that was maybe the most Hallmarky thing that they have ever done on the series, was just like all of the things going wrong getting to the wedding, like the minister getting measles, and that all felt straight out of a Hallmark rom-com, which I'm all about and very much enjoyed.
It's also something that Martha kind of, a lot of this wedding stuff was based on a book that she wrote called Inviting God to Your Wedding. And one of the things that she really points to in that book is, like, when you get to the altar, like, that is the most important thing. Everything else can go completely wrong. But if you invite God to the wedding, he's going to stay for your marriage. And that's, like, the most important thing, like, out of everything else. So it really doesn't matter if you have everything, like flowers and DJ and all this stuff. Like, the important thing is that what you're doing on that day, and that the gift at the end of the aisle is your spouse. That's right. So I really like that she kind of got a chance to, weave that in, and all these little, silly things that were sort of going wrong, and all the, like, literally craziest ways, kind of Hallmarky ways, as you say, that she was kind of getting that message in underneath as well.
Yeah, that was really good. I like that very much. And I loved I love like flirty scenes with couples, like they go on cute little dates, or they're like flirty in these movies. And I loved the scene when Shane's like, I love it when you get all Miss McInerney on me.
McInerney
on me. That was so cute. That whole scene I thought was really good. And I loved the scene when she's trying on this wedding dress that was lost, and she tries it on, and when he like just comes behind her, it kind of reminded me of in When Calls the Heart in the Christmas movie, when Jack just is behind Elizabeth, and like both scenes I thought were just like super swoon worthy, and this was super swoon worthy too. I thought very romantic.
I almost swooned when there was a pocket in that wedding dress. Yeah. I was like, yeah, wedding dress, have a pocket. Because as everyone should know, every dress should have pockets.
Yeah.
I'm pro pockets. Rachel, you know this.
Yes. Yeah. No, we were both equally part of the
I feel like I'm a little more pro pocket than you.
Trust me, in my real life, I yearn for pockets. But yeah.
Hold on, real quick, Chandel. What's your pocket stance?
Pockets are cute. Okay, I think there's such a utility to pockets in general. Now, I don't know, like in dresses, I think it's cool. I don't know about a wedding dress though. I could see the benefit of it in some cases, but I don't know if that's like me. I don't know if I would do pockets. I mean, it would really depend on the dress.
I just can't see any period in my life where I'd be like, man, I wish this didn't have a pocket. Like, I'm going to always be like, I wish there were some pockets.
Yeah.
Always.
I hear you for sure.
We also find out, before we talk about the letter, we find out that Rita's mother has passed away. So that's very sad. Was that, do you think that was, they had to do that because of an actor thing, or was it just they wanted to work it in part of the plot?
I don't know. I would think that maybe, I mean, it was packed with so many people and so many things that, in the event that they could, even with Carol Burnett and all of that, I mean, if that was the chance that maybe they couldn't get Colleen Camp to come back, I could see that's how they would handle it. But, and this might be in like an unpopular opinion, but I also think it kind of matured Rita in sort of a way that I wasn't anticipating. And it really allowed her to sort of be have compassion for, and really empathize with Jessica, like in the course of the like the letter mystery, and she sort of brought a little bit of a gravity of really remembering people who, you know, in general in life, like aren't there for those really big moments.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a nod to them to sort of say, hey, we remember you too, sort of in these really happy times, and that they're not always just 100% like amazing and fun, and you know, that you're also wanting to remember that person, because remember, she honored her with that dress, you know, the no bigger than a postage stamp, and with a, you know, was it a veil, you know, longer than the dress. So I think, you know, that could have been a, you know, and we can't get Colleen Camp to come back, but I really like sort of the impact it had on the story and on sort of Rita's development in the course of the narrative.
The fact that we're not sure if it was an unavailability of the character or if it was just the way that Martha felt the story needed to go really speaks to the fact that regardless, it was a good job, because
right.
I mean, I don't feel like I was cheated out of anything. I felt like, you know, like you said, like Rita grew. It really allowed her to relate to Jessica, to the letter mystery. It was beautifully done. So I really, I mean, great job.
Yeah. So they find this letter in the dress, and it is a mother writing to her daughter, sending her the dress, and they start to break it down. What did you think, first of all, just of this dress? Did you like it, not like it? What did you think?
I just sort of, for its simplicity and sort of its history, I think is probably what I liked about it most. I don't know that I would choose it for me, and I just sort of loved how it fit, you know, how it fits Shane, how it ended up fitting Jessica. Like it was just kind of a beautiful dress in its simplicity. I don't know that I'd choose it for myself, but it kind of had this classic vibe that really, you know, said, oh, you know, I like that.
Yeah. Amber, what do you think?
I don't feel that I loved the top of the dress so much. I mean, the bottom of the dress, like the cut and the you know, design of the lower half of the dress was great. We're talking about the male dress, right?
Yeah, the male
okay
dress.
Just making sure. Because there was no bottom half of Rita's dress.
Right.
That's right.
We'll talk about that
I
later.
felt like the bodice was a little strange, and maybe it was just because the first time we saw it, it was on Shane and it was meant to fit that other girl a little bit better. But I felt like it like puffed a little weird. But overall, I thought it was nice, and I really liked the drape on the back. I thought that was very elegant and lovely.
Yeah. I mean, it's not. I obviously, like, I'm not as confident in my back, I guess, to show that much, but it was very pretty. I thought the back in particular was very pretty. So anyway, they start on this mystery of this dress, and they go to the dress designer, who I thought was really cute, this 96-year-old designer who bonds with Rita, and she agrees to make Rita her dress. So that was really fun. And we also find out that Rita has been struggling to reach Norman's grandma. It was played by Carol Burnett. The letters keep getting returned. And then all these other things keep happening. Problems with the flowers, problems with the minister. And so those kind of things happen. And they finally get to this hotel where the main part of the unraveling of the mystery kind of occurs. And they meet this man who is, I don't know, you wouldn't call him a waiter, but like it's more fancy than that. But anyway, who's there at the hotel, and he tells them about this mother and this daughter that used to come there all the time. Anyway, they break it down. What did you think about this whole sort of case, I guess? Amber?
I really enjoyed it. It was great. I like that it dealt with saying that, like, you know, facing your struggles, and, you know, in this case, it was obviously mental illness, but your struggles, whatever they may be, it takes courage and strength. And I love that they acknowledged that. I thought that the mystery itself built quite well. I enjoyed, you know, another facet of Oliver being a fancy gentleman of tea knowledge. I just really enjoyed it. I thought it worked very well with, you know, the actual plot, and I just liked it a lot.
Yeah. Chandel, what do you think?
You know, just like Amber said, for the way that it sort of, you know, connected the letter mystery and sort of the things that the Postables are sort of preparing for this wedding and how those things sort of came together. I really like this mother-daughter story. I like that the daughter sort of took what her mother taught her to sort of give strength to other young women, sort of through her young adult novels. Even when she didn't have all the questions sort of answered about her relationship with her mom. And I really like that they, were able to hit on sort of like the mental health and the struggle that it can be for people.
Surprised by the reveal. I thought it wasn't exactly what I was expecting. And it's because basically like what ends up happening is the mother has been telling her daughter about all of these adventures that she's going on, when in reality she's at like a mental health treatment place getting help, and she ends up going there and she's like getting help, and she begins to feel that that her daughter is better having having these adventure stories, these illusions of her mom, than like dealing with this broken, in her mind, this broken version of a mom. And that was pretty devastating. And it's obviously not the case that like we're better having people with mental health in our lives issues than not having them in our lives. But I can understand how somebody could believe that, and that would be devastating. And because there's just still this horrible stigma out there. And so I was shocked that she was working in the hotel. That was very surprising to me.
I really like that part that she was sort of like right there, sort of hovering, in a way. She was just kind of right there, that she was present at the wedding. She watched through, what was it, the kitchen door. I think there was sort of really this message about how sometimes we undervalue ourselves as moms or as women. When we go through struggles or have a broken piece, we don't see the strength in it, even though there's an incredible amount of strength to sort of be honored and celebrated there.
And I feel like the show didn't either approve or condemn her for doing this. Like, it's obviously not a good thing what she did, but it's also it's understandable how she could feel that way and make this incorrect choice. And I felt like that's kind of how they treated it, which I appreciated.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that the show does very well is it doesn't dwell on where people have been. It says, the road took you here. What are you going to do from this point forward?
Yeah.
Is a lot of the times, because we're dealing with people having sent letters and they're not getting there for 30 years or whatever the case may be. People's pasts and their journeys, or their journeys and their paths, but they need to come forward from this point trying to make the best choices that they can.
Right.
And I feel like that's part of why the show can deal with all of these really intense things and very, sensitive things, is because they always come out in the end saying, there's hope. Whatever you decide to do, that's your hope. However you go forward, that's, where you'll be.
Yeah, and for the most part, I mean, I guess there have been a few episodes with, like, for instance, the rapist in the Kimbo Says, obviously he's the villain, but like in most of these, there isn't really like a villain. There's like people that are misunderstood, miscommunicated, made poor choices, that kind of a thing, which is really interesting and hard to write. And in this, there was no hero and villain. There were just complex people.
There was too, which is the episode you're referring to, because remember, he ended up giving the kidney to the daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, even in the end, he wasn't necessarily a villain. He ended up being able to save, the daughter's life.
That's fair. That's fair.
Redemptive too.
Let's talk about the green ties tradition. This was pretty fun. Amber, why don't you explain to everybody what that was all about?
All right. So in O'Toole lore.
Yeah. Okay, so O'Toole lore, I'll start out the same. So I think it's like the 18 something. So Russell Bennett was in love with a well-to-do woman, and he was just the postmaster, so he was kind of embarrassed that he didn't have sort of the same station. And one day, a rival suitor, was going towards Letitia, what Hepplewhite's house, I guess with the intent to propose. And Russell knew that if he didn't do something immediately, that he was going to lose her. So he borrows a tie from, I think, the guy who is shoeing his horse, and goes and runs and says, don't look at my tie, look in my eyes. If I will love you forever if you'll marry me. And I'll never wear the tie again for the situation. And apparently that's why O'Toole's don't wear a green tie when they propose. Letitia said no, or if that means that because he only had to wear it once because he never proposed again, like if that's sort of the situation. But anyways.
I had a happy ending. How dare
I know, that's
you?
what I feel like too, but I love it.
Yeah, I don't know. It all kind
but
of
now
was a
I
blur to
really
me.
do. So much of me wants to go back and watch every single episode and every scene and check and see if he has a green tie ever.
Done a lot of wardrobe posts, and let's see here. There was one other time that he had a green tie, but it was stripes. It was not like the plaid that I think he ended up with in this one.
It wasn't an ugly
stripes.
green tie.
No, it wasn't an intentionally ugly green tie. It was, expertly sort of Oliver, streamlined with the wardrobe sort of situation.
I can state as a fact that he had a green tie on for the Christmas episode, but I guess we'll let that slide.
There you go.
Do you mean
he
had
ugly?
it?
Would you categorize it as ugly?
No, and I didn't really even think that one, the one he had on, was that ugly, to be completely honest.
Either.
I thought it was fine.
I really wished it had been like a truly hideous green tie.
Yeah.
Don't you wish?
Yes. Yeah.
Like green and orange and like brown and like other green and just like hideous. I wish.
Yeah, it sounds like a hideous tie right there.
It would have been really funny if it was like, I don't know, just something so not Oliver. That would have been funny. Like if he'd had like a Laker basketball tie or something like, they have that kind of stuff, just something totally not him. That would have been kind of funny.
Remember, he's like, I would have chosen something a bit more. So he felt like it was not him tie. So it's almost like, almost like Papa Joe trolled him and got like what a tie he absolutely knew Oliver would consider ugly. And was like, you're going to wear this. Because he's the one who put it in the pocket. So, unless this is a tie that's passed down, which it very well could have been. And I don't think we ever kind of get an answer to that. But, he might have really Papa O'Toole might have just been trolling him really hard.
That's true. Yeah, and I did like he says at one point to Norman, he says that he's been busy contemplating the preponderance of archaic and mystifying wedding superstitions, which I said on Twitter, I've just been through June brides, so I also have it. I can relate.
I can't do this anymore. Only because, when they set up something in an episode, like a word or a phrase like contemplative, it gets used multiple times. And so there's sort of like a code sort of underneath it. And of course we sort of, see him like really thinking, and that it's a process he's already sort of started beforehand. Otherwise he would have never used the word contemplative. I've been contemplative rather than distracted. So that's what I think is really interesting about it, is that it's just somewhere in that episode something changed and it sort of became more urgent for him, and that's why you sort of see him descend into sort of this like complete distractedness. He's worried about shrimp sauce on everything, coasters, like all this stuff. He's just so not focused.
I do want to say though, for real, when I was watching this, when he was like, what's the deal with the something old, something borrowed, something blue thing, I was like, of all the people in the universe who would know what that is, it would be Oliver O'Toole. Like, am I wrong?
Exactly. Yeah, no, you're totally right.
Wikipedia says that the superstition comes from Lancashire County in England since like the 1880s. And it was to provide protection for a baby to come. And that it actually ends after something blue and a silver sixpence in her shoe.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Glad they got rid of that one. That sounds painful.
Your wedding shoes like already... you would really care about a penny in your shoe, Rachel?
Well, silver piece. I don't know. That sounds bigger. I was thinking.
Yeah, so
bigger.
it would just be more surface area and less irritating.
I'll
fight you about this.
That's so funny.
Wedding shoes are already uncomfortable as it is, but all right. So here we go. So we also have Rita's dad and Oliver's dad are both kind of there, and Rita's dad has been making this canoe for them, which was
Yes.
hilarious because Norma doesn't know how to swim. And for Frida is just, I feel like there's just going to be no end to the sort of revelations of things that Norman is embarrassed about that he can't do. Because the last movie, it was all kind of about that.
Although if you're right about this being a finale, then I guess that is the end.
Yeah. Well, I'm
Wah, wah.
my fantasy
Hey,
relationship.
they'll live on in fan fiction. Let me tell you
Yeah, that's right.
something. There's some fanfic writers out there that will resolve that issue for you. Like,
Yeah.
they will continue to live. Trust me.
Yeah, let us know if you're listening, fanfic writers. Let us know who you are because I want to read it. Okay.
I'm one of them, and I know all of the others.
And also, fanfic writers that are out there, please feel free to write some fan fiction about When Calls the Heart, where World War I happens.
Yes, please. Okay, so then we find out that Rita's mother was making this. She was a weaver, and she was making this blanket on the loom. And we end up at the bachelor party. We end up that there's the cake and everything, which is pretty scandalous for Hallmark. But who pops out of the cake? It's a screen with Carol Burnett. So Grandma is there. That's pretty exciting. And this is so it was very sweet. So Carol Burnett's character is like living in with this tribe or whatever, and helps Rita's father to finish the blanket from her mother. So that was very sweet. But some of the tribal antics I thought was a little broad. It was a little like, these are like real cultures, and like it was a little much, I thought. Like, I don't know. Like, Carol Burnett can sell it because she's Carol Burnett, but if it hadn't been her, it was a little broad for me.
I just loved the fact that they basically just had her on the set from Between Two Ferns, and like she was just hanging out in some black room with just like random pots. Like, it was so funny. Like, couldn't they have at least made her in like a wood room? Like, I don't know. It was so funny. It was not distracting for me, but it was so funny.
Yeah, it was funny.
They shot it separately in LA, actually.
Of course.
So that's why is that she wasn't. Yeah, so she was not actually like there. There was a version of the script, I believe, where she was maybe supposed to actually be at the wedding, but they ran into some things, and so they weren't able to do that. But yeah, and it's actually kind of funny. The second time around, there is a cameo by one of Martha's daughters. She's what is it, Constantina or whoever, who the yak milk bit and the loud, the like tribal strains or whatever, the sacred yak milk or the whatever that is, traditional yak milk.
That was that, but it was very sweet. Her dad making that blanket.
Mm-hmm.
That was very touching.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little worried they were trying to make like Barry Bostwick and Carol Burnett fall in love on Skype, but I'm glad it didn't go there. But I was a little bit like, too soon, guys, too soon.
No, I think what it was is that it was actually more of a testament to sort of the fact that even in her passing, that Sunny was still weaving their families together. That when you get married, two become one. And that includes the families. And I think that's kind of what that was a nod to, because he was clearly still grieving his wife. He was looking at that loom and was like, the one thing that she sort of left undone, and Joe came to her and said, well, if that's the only thing she didn't finish, then you were blessed. And so I think that was sort of I think that was probably what really touched me, I think, the most, sort of this big rough sort of man, like really just sort of mourning his wife in a sense, and then sort of having this hope of this last thing being finished, and her being connected to Carol, and sort of everything sort of being connected.
Really got there eventually, but like when he first started Skyping with her and they were like, hello, I was like,
oh no.
But they didn't go there, so it was fine. But
right.
I was a little bit worried for a second. I was like, Martha, what are you doing? Oh, it's fine.
I did think that the girl who played the daughter who gets the dress, I thought did a very good job. I really liked her. I think her name is Jessie Siso?
Jessica Sipos, I think, or Sipos, however you pronounce that, that's her name.
she did a good job. And I really thought it was awfully sweet that she wore the wedding dress to meet her mom. That was very sweet, I think. And just before that happened, she was saying, it's just too late, too much water under the bridge kind of a thing. And it was very touching when Rita says, I know what too late feels like. That was a very emotional moment. And I also thought the lady who played the mother was very strong as well. She because you could just feel that she was just had all this shame and regret. And I've always really responded to sort of characters and stories that have that sort of, because you can't live life with regret. And it's just such a horrible way to live. And you just felt that in her. I think she did a really good job. And when they say to her, you are strong and you are brave. I thought that was such a lovely moment. And I've dealt with panic attacks in my life, and it's not like I'm not certainly as severe as other people, but I know what it feels like, I guess, to have a mental illness episode, at least, I guess, that I've had to deal with in my life. And I've certainly dealt with depression and other things. And so it's a topic that the older I get, the more sort of empathetic that I get. And I really appreciated we as a society should not be treating mental illness any different than any other illness. Like I remember one time I went to a therapist and the therapist said, you go to a doctor when your stomach gets sick. What's wrong with going to a doctor when your brain gets sick? And it's so true. Like, why do we have this stigma? And I just thought they handled it all so lovely. And they didn't excuse her. Like, she even said, I've still got questions. I've still got, things. Like, it's not like they were like, pat on the back, you did a good job, not being there for your daughter. But they were like, you still are you're still a value. And I appreciate that a lot.
And I think really part of that comes from Martha realizing that it's not our place to judge anyone else's experience. Like, our job is to simply love people and encourage them to live their best life. And so, and that's something that, the Postables all do. And it's amazing. And it's the right answer in every situation.
Yeah, that's right. That's very true. That's very, very true. All right. So, and sometimes we can let things that are so dumb, like, affect the way we treat people, which is really sad. So I just really appreciated it. And that reunion, I think, was very sweet and very well done. And I loved when Shane says, I think it was, Shane says, I love us. And Oliver says, and I love you. That was so good.
Oh, but he totally went Mr. Darcy, but like slow-mo Mr. Darcy, where he was like, and I love you, but like slower. And Oliver, it was really good.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And then we got to the wedding, which was so good. So it was in this barn because there were skunks in the church. I was like, I don't know why they didn't just plan it. People have weddings in barns all the time. I'm not sure why.
I mean, that's honestly the plot of half of Hallmark movies is someone trying to have a wedding in a barn.
Right. That's the whole Wedding Bells movie. It was all that. Yeah.
Readily available to Norman and Maria. It's like, that's obviously your first option. Like, why did you try anything else?
Yeah. And I was thinking, like, where were they planning on putting that sign in the church? I guess they had some hall or something maybe in the church maybe, but the sign was so cute. With the
little owls on it.
Adorably postal, perfectly postal.
It was so cute. And then you had our guitar player from Higher Ground. And I don't know who that lady was with the red hair. She was the one who was like, and here's
Hazel.
Her name is Jill.
Okay.
Her name is Jill. And yes,
Hazel, Jill Morrison, Hallmarky
Jill
queen.
Morrison, yes.
Yeah, she was the one who was like, I felt like was kind of doing, remember this and remember this and remember this and remember this. And I was kind of like, oh no. And it was like, but it was very sweet too. And they brought in the blanket, which was very sweet. and Ramon ends up doing the wedding, which they should have done all along.
For real though, he really pulled out all the stops though. He DJ'd like the bachelor party, and like, I mean, he just really pulled it together. He really is just sort of the man of all trades.
Like, how is Oliver not officiating the wedding? I was
Really,
very
though?
confused about that. And then I loved that they were like, well, Ramon's really officiating, but for you at home, we're just going to have Oliver do it. Because it was his voiceover. It was amazing.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, I
That's a
know,
good
right?
point.
You like cut in like halfway. They sort of like let him start telling their story or whatever, sort of on top of like, yeah, Ramon. But I think the antagonism between like Norman and Ramon that has persisted, like almost from the minute that they sort of interacted with each other. I just love like the juxtaposition of, guess what? Now he's officiating the most important moment of your life. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's just this like this real like humorous value to it.
Yeah.
No, it was funny, but also I was kind of like, I can't believe they didn't have Oliver King of Speeches do their wedding.
Oh, he got his moment though there at the end, so you know.
He'll always get his moment.
Amen.
I guess that would have made maybe the tie thing a little bit less of like a boom kind of thing, but I get what you're saying. So what did we think of Rita's dress? So it's a very unusual dress, but I thought it was kind of cute. It was perky. It was fun. It was different without being ridiculous. It was perfectly normal, but different. So I liked it. What did you think, Amber?
Well, like, I'm a sucker for tradition, right? But it was fine. It was like, it was a little too short for me, but it was like part of the plot, so it's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be like, I'm mad at you for honoring your dead mom. Like, who's going to say that? Nobody.
Right.
That's like, she has a dead mom pass. She can do whatever she wants.
Right. I thought it fit her personality pretty good. Yeah.
Well, and she looked lovely, like, let's be honest. And the top of that dress was really beautiful. I loved the like lace and the like neckline.
Yeah.
I was actually expecting something super boho for her. So like that was such like to see her in sort of that like more tailored, like sort of form-fitting thing was like, wait a second, like that's not what I was expecting. But at the end of the day, like when I realized sort of why she wore it, how she was honoring her mom and doing it, how it was sort of, you know, not the sheep rancher dress that sounded really hideous, I won't lie.
I do wish we had seen the sheep dress.
Yeah, yeah, I know for real how awful it was, like it's how she explained it, but yeah, so this is definitely an upgrade from that, but I think, I don't know, at the end of the day, she was, you know, just gorgeous.
And it was a lot of fun. And it was kind of fun that there was an owl in the barn. That was super cute.
Yes, there's always someone flying around that thinks you're special. That's like from For Christmas. That's why they had the owl, I think, sort of like a callback to that moment.
And we have all the little fun wedding stuff. And then, as we've talked about, we have our big moment after the wedding with Oliver and Shane. And he says, marry me and I'll love you forever, which was like perfect. That
but I still kind of think he should still love her forever, even if she's like, no. Just saying.
Fair enough.
A universe where Shane has suddenly fallen out of love with Oliver at the time of the proposal. You still love her anyways.
Yeah, unconditional love, okay?
Okay, we're going to test this out.
So
the heart attack that would have caused across Postables Nation if she just suddenly decided to say no. I mean,
she was like, I can't do this. It's Rita's wedding.
Yeah. Or suddenly she's like, I got like severe cold feet even about the idea of like touching engagement. That would have just been like traumatic.
That guy from the FBI. I love him.
Steve. Oh my gosh, stop. I can't.
It was so romantic. I loved it. And then he gives her his grandma's ring, which was so Oliver. And I said on Twitter, this is just the best day of my life watching this movie. And then I loved when she like pulls on his tie and like pulls him up for this like epic kiss. It was so good. It was like a 10 on the kiss scale.
Oh, but you've seen Higher Ground though, so like though you've got it now. You've got to clarify. It's like which kiss was like better? Was it this one or was it Higher Ground?
A little while since I saw Higher Ground, so I'd have to watch them back to back.
He pulled her in. And
I kind of like her
epic.
pulling. Yeah, it was epic.
I feel like I like this one better because even the Higher Ground one, like they were like, oh, kissing, but this one it was like pure, like, we know we are both in love and we're in it all the way. Like, it was just like unrestrained, no hesitation.
Nice.
It
Right?
was really good.
I like that explanation. It's pretty good.
I liked the way she was like, "Come to me." It was so fun. I just big.
Yeah,
fan.
it was super fun.
Yeah,
super fun.
I'm a big fan of both kisses. So there you go. But
Rachel's just like, let's just have all the kissing. Rachel would watch
right?
like a movie that was just 2 hours of people kissing.
Oh my God.
I don't know about that, but yeah, in general, I'm more kissing is I'm a big fan.
Woo!
So, okay, so yeah, and then we get our final toast at the end to the Postables, and this again felt really like the end of the series to me. I was just like, it was super cute, but I was super conflicted. So that was my only critique of the show. Is I was just like, so many times I was like, I want to feel happy, but I feel sad because this feels like the end, and like I don't know, it was back and forth, back and forth. So. But I don't know. I mean, if they really do even feel like a very strong idea or even a small idea that this could be the end, then what are you going to do? Like, how else could they have done it that would have been any better? I don't know. But, like, I'd rather have them do this than have it just, like, end and not get the resolution. I've already experienced that with shows like Christie, and that's the worst. So... you know, when it's just like you don't get that sense of, I don't know. So that was my only critique of the show, of the movie, was that I was a little bit like, I don't know.
I feel like every movie should be treated like it could be the last, unless you know for sure that there's other ones, because I don't approve of people leaving me hanging. Yeah. I just don't.
I feel like I'm not here for that at all. I just really liked that it was sort of a statement on Oliver's part, sort of when you followed him, you know, from the beginning all the way to the end, of like sort of his growth. And I really liked that he compared himself to a letter, like sort of like making that connection, that sort of metaphor, like of bringing those two things together. Yeah. That seems so sort of appropriate for his character to sort of be the one to like make that statement when he was the one who sort of had the most, I guess, to gain overall. Sort of when you remember what kind of where he was and how kind of locked up he was, and now how he opened his heart up to someone for forever. You know, it just for him to say, you know, I've been delivered through your faith, your love, your friendship. And I feel like there's sort of a call out to sort of the Postables themselves who have been really coming alongside each other in life and as friends and as family, sort of do some of the same sort of redemptive and growth development work. I know there's been plenty of women who come alongside me to sort of do that work. And I just kind of like that for sort of what it was, even though, you know, you could go either way of, no, oh, it's going to be the last thing, or no, it's not the last thing, like that, just sort of moment, a sort of acknowledgement on both, you know, the both sides, I think was really, really precious and special.
It was certainly, whether it's the end or not, it was certainly a big moment worthy of a toast, so you can't really.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so.
You can never begrudge Oliver his toasts.
No.
And they're like, oh, let's have a toast, and then they're like, Oliver, would you, like, who else was going to give that toast? Right. Let's be honest.
Yeah. But I would love, it is true, I would love either to have a Christmas wedding would be super. I would love to have like a Christmas wedding for Shane and Oliver, but also like a Valentine's wedding would be really fun because they could work in
Valentine's. Like a Winterfest wedding, or like a June bride's wedding.
No, but Valentine's Eve, guys, New Year's Eve, like that's like what we really need. I feel like that's like one thing we don't really have at all, is like sort of that New Year's Eve sort of flip. I feel like we need a New Year's Eve wedding.
Yeah.
Yes.
That could be fun.
It would be amazing. Oh my gosh, and obviously the letter would have like a time crunch. It needed to be delivered by New Year's Eve, or else somebody's gonna like leave. They always have someone leave.
Right.
Yeah, something. They'll figure something out, trust me.
Martha's got it. I don't know like why I'm pitching ideas.
Totally
Martha's got it.
She can do just about anything. Like honestly, in the grand scheme of things, I'm still trying to figure out what this woman cannot do.
Amazing. Yesterday it was so touching. She posted on her Twitter, she said something to the effect of, your mom may have been very flawed, but if she's there, call her. I was like, okay. Love you, Mom. You know, like it was very touching.
After this movie is over.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, Mom, right next to me. We got this.
Right.
Yeah, we good. I think motherhood also. I mean, she's a...
Yeah.
mom too. I think that's sort of one of her greatest things. She has a real passion for sort of motherhood and being a mom and empowering other women. And I just think that she really just has that understanding of what it feels like when it's too late, sort of a thing, and that kind of, being able to make that connection where it's too late. It's just so important.
Sometimes feel that way, but you just got to take advantage of every opportunity you have to be with the people that you love, even if they can be super frustrating and super sometimes. But yeah, it was just really sweet and lovely, and I really loved it. And yeah, so how many crowns would you give this movie, Amber?
I would probably give it 4.6 crowns.
Okay, good.
4.7 crowns.
4.7 crowns, good. And Chandel, how many would you give it out of 5?
Okay, let's say this is a scale of 5. I'm gonna go 4.7. I think it's kind of, nothing will ever beat From Paris with Love for me. That's like a really hard sell, so it's all the way up there.
It was really good. We should do a ranking episode. That might be fun.
But that'd be super cool.
Yeah, let's do it. So I think I'll just join the bandwagon train and also give it a 4.7.
I think that is honestly the first time we've ever had 3 people on the podcast all give a movie the exact same ranking.
Yeah.
Like,
really?
This is an epic moment.
I'm glad to be a part. What's up?
And in my yearly ranking of Hallmark movies, I currently have this at number 1.
Ooh, yeah, that's right. Get it, Postables. Numero uno. What's up?
And I have Road Less Traveled at 9. So
okay.
So they're just so good. So what can you do? We'll be grateful for all that we get, and hopefully we'll get more. Please.
Yes.
Please.
In the show, I don't know how many more times I can write a post that explicitly states why the show should continue, but let my words speak to you. Renew the show. You don't have a reason not to at this point. There's just no reason for you guys to continue to hold out on us, because you know how good the show is. You know that it'll continue to be good because because from where Martha gets her inspiration, it's a nonstop flow. You'll never be short on what you need.
Honestly, even if it was just super simple and just a whole episode of them just kind of being at the letter office and having fun banter, I'm totally...
make a bottle episode of this. I'll watch a bottle episode where it's literally them just trapped in the DLO the whole time.
Yeah.
That would be fine.
Yeah, there could be a power outage and they have to stay. It could be super cheap. I mean, I guess you got the talent, but they could do it. And hey, I'd watch it.
So many unexplored options.
Let's hope that we do get more. But anyway, it was so fun to talk to you, Chandel, about this. This was a great movie, and it was definitely going to be one of the highlights of the summer. How can people find you and your blog and everything like that?
You can find me on the internet. You can either, if you're on Twitter, at Alameda Downing, Facebook, Alameda Downing, and then alamedadowningsblog.weebly.com. It's probably going to be linked in the comments or somewhere in the description of the video, but that's where you can find me on the internet. All things Science Field delivered all the time, post a couple times a week, best I can do. So sign up for the Mailbox Minute and you'll never miss another blog post again. So just come and join the fun.
Perfect.
And
it's honestly the most in-depth website I've ever seen dedicated to one show. It's crazy.
Really?
Yeah, it's so good.
Thank you. Thank you. Good. Lots of hours, lots of work, but lots of love, which is probably, the core of the whole thing. It's just a lot of love for the show and for everybody involved and for the messages that it's sending.
You do a great job. And so make sure to follow Chandel. And Amber, where can people find you?
As always, I'm at Amber Brainwaves on Twitter, and that's it.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews on iTunes and on YouTube. So please check that out. Make sure you're following the podcast at Hallmarkies Pod on Instagram and Twitter. And if you can leave your reviews on iTunes for the podcast, it really helps people to find us. So we really appreciate it. And you can find us on all the major streaming services this weekend. We have the Morning Show Murders second movie, so that's gonna be fun. Hopefully it'll be fun to see. And yeah, so we're excited, and yeah, we got lots of fun stuff going on in the podcast, so just make sure you're checking it out. And we had our interview with Sandy Sidhu that posted this week, so
Fun fact, really great friends with Kristen Lowe.
that's right.
Yes, I was thinking just that thing.
Yes, and so she was really fun, and you get to learn about my love for Bahubali too. So it's a really fun interview. Just let us know what you think of this movie, what you thought of it. Let us know on Twitter or in the comment section or wherever, and we would love to hear. So thanks so much again, Chandel, and we really appreciate it, and we will talk to you again soon, hopefully.
All right, looking forward to it.
Okay, bye.
Bye, everybody.